If you watched my last two videos on the financial and emotional risk of work, I focused on the job as being a single point of failure. So this leads to the next question, is owning a business better? And while both a job and being a business owner share many of the same risks, there are some important differences that I want to talk about in this video. And by the way, it need not be an either or decision. It's common for employees to have side hustles that grow into successful businesses. And I've also known of business owners to sell their business and become an employee of that same business. So there is no right answer, only the one that best fits your needs. This topic has some complexities that warrant a longer discussion. It's important to be aware of the fine print, especially if you're considering ditching your day job to start a business. As the saying goes, don't quit your day job yet, at least until you're armed with the information in this video. Now, there are life situations where starting a business is really the only option. If you can't find a job, you may be forced to create your own. Think of handyman services, lawn care, etc. These are examples of businesses that can be started from the back of your truck. However, the businesses that rely on physical labor are often avoided if people have other options. I remember as a kid, I'd sometimes complain about school and homework, and my parents would always say, it's easier to push a pencil than a shovel. So in other words, get back to my homework. And in general, if you can get the education and training for a good paying job, that's going to be the easier path in the beginning. Now, once you have a steady income, then you can think about business ideas and ways to leverage your skills. Just like jobs, there are good businesses and bad ones, and it's important to know the difference. If I had to choose between a job and owning a business, I would want the business, but it matters a lot about what type of business you end up starting. The best ones leverage your existing skills and don't cost much to start. These are the ones that usually begin with a side hustle while you have income from your day job. Then there are the bad businesses. Those are the ones with a low probability of success. And I want to share a bad mistake I made in my early 30s. I hated my job at the time, and I thought owning a franchise would be a good exit ramp. Well, I bought into a business I knew absolutely nothing about, thinking I could just make it work through effort. Well, I learned the hard way that enthusiasm is really no substitute for experience or expertise. So I eventually pivoted back to what I actually knew, consulting in my field, and I immediately started making money. So here's what I learned. The odds of success are extremely high when you build a business from your existing skills and you give it time to grow. So using your existing job as a transition is a very safe bridge. What you're doing is you're giving yourself time to field test ideas and build a customer base without the need to also, at the same time, generate enough money to live on. So, with the exception of my failed franchise, every other business I started has been successful. So, your competitive edge, in my opinion, is usually going to be what you already know. And the trap to avoid is to be tempted by businesses that are resource intensive, like restaurants, hotels, or franchises, unless you have experience in successfully running those businesses. Even then, I would never put my own money in them. And an important question to ask yourself is why you want a business. Is it because, like with me, you hate your job? Okay, that's an important thing to know. Or is it that you're bored? Maybe you have just retired, you have time on your hands, or you had a successful business that you built up and you sold for a payday, and now you're thinking it'd be nice to own this or that business. We really want to step back and ask yourself, what is your motivation? Because it would be a disastrous decision to go into any business that you do not thoroughly understand or that requires a large upfront investment. So buying into the wrong business can destroy the wealth it took you a lifetime to build. I want to be real clear with you on that. There are true horror stories out there of people buying into a dream that turns into a nightmare. Case in point, You buy a cute bed and breakfast for something to do in your retirement. That's a big mistake because you've just tied yourself to both a hotel and a restaurant that has high overhead and low revenue. How about that nice pub down the street? Well, it's one thing to enjoy a drink at the bar, it's quite another to actually be responsible for it. So, do you really want to spend the rest of your life serving drinks, working late hours? Perhaps you'll hire someone to run it, you'll say. Well, that costs money. Does the business generate enough revenue for you to even afford to hire another person? So, my advice is to walk away from these high overhead, low margin traps for the inexperienced. The statistics on business ownership is not so good because the numbers include both the good businesses and the bad businesses. But in a nutshell, about 81% of small businesses are one-person operations. Most people are buying a job, and probably a more stressful one than being an employee. The failure rate is high. About 20% of businesses fail in the first year, and only half make it 5 years. Even the ones that survive often only provide a median income comparable to a traditional job once you factor in the cost of your own benefits. So, if most businesses don't make you rich, where are all those rich business owners? Well, they're out there, but it's likely that they're part of a multi-generational business. And we see this in many sectors, such as the grocery stores, real estate, and so forth. The point is that great wealth is the exception and not the rule. And I talk about this in my video, Should You Take Advice from Billionaires? For most of us, wealth isn't an inheritance. It's a slow build through diversification. Whether you're an employee or a business owner, the goal is the same. You want to diversify. Wealth isn't created by the business alone. It's created by taking that surplus from the business and directing it towards other assets such as stock funds, real estate investment trusts, etc., and letting that grow over time. So true freedom happens when you have these multiple baskets of income, when you have these multiple baskets of interest. That frees you from having to be completely dependent on either your business or your job. So, what path are you considering? Are you looking to jump into a business, or are you building your side hustle basket right now? Let me know in the comments. And if this series helps you see risk differently, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.